You can see there's a little bit of problem right from the start there. And the rest of it came out pretty good. This is the CR10 heavily modified. I now call that the CZ8 300. Over here we have the Prusa. I'm going to get out of the light there. You can see there's a problem right there with that, right from the start. To be fair, I didn't do any tuning for this print. I literally just stuck it on and decided that I was going to print whatever I had, whatever material I had, and print it. So this one came out of my Cube Pro that has been converted to water cooling via the E3D Titan Aqua setup. So I didn't use any fan, and for some reason right there it actually didn't create the support like the other printers did. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, and you can see there the bridging and the angle test is pretty bad. That's because I didn't actually use a fan on this print. Alright, so let's talk about these prints that I just pulled off. So here we have the one off of the Cube Pro with liquid cooling. This was done at PEGT. Admittedly, I was not expecting it to even come out nearly as good as it has. And that's mainly because I didn't use a part cooling fan. I literally just printed it as my normal last print in PEGT, which was a big block of something that didn't need any cooling or anything. So right here we can kind of see a little bit of under extrusion, or just kind of heat, I guess. Not really under extrusion, but it got too hot and it melted the tip of that. Also with this secondary one right here, the first one looks pretty good. I don't know why this this particular model did not put support in for the PEGT one. It seems like it was something that was built into the model for a test, but it didn't make it onto the Cube Pro, even though I used the Kira slicing engines. But everything else looks actually really pretty good on this. The overhang test, once again, with no part cooling, I wasn't expecting very good results. Looks like I got really up to this 40 degrees, 45 degrees, pretty well. So you can see there, bottom side. So pretty well, all the way up until about 50 degrees, which is about normal. Probably could have been a lot better with some additional cooling, blowing a little fan on the print as it's printing. The words came out pretty well as well. Not the best, but once again, PEGT, it's not my favorite printing material. It seems to be extra sticky, and so the little fine details seem to kind of come out on it. So that's kind of enough of that one. Once again, that's heavily modified 3D printer. So this is going to be off of the CR10, or what was the CR10. And as I pointed out right away, there was a problem right here with bed adhesion. So bed adhesion, I believe, is user only. Now, that doesn't just mean that, oh, you can't get your prints to stick, you suck. That means that you really have to tune for your printer. Some printers, like the Prusa here, it has pretty good bed adhesion every time. It uses, you know, every printer comes with some sort of different technique. Whether it be glass, whether it be build tack sheet, PEI, there's, you know, Kapton tape, there's a lot of different coatings that go on there. Magic Goo, and I have been actually using the Cube Glue. I got it with my Cube when I got my Cube for nothing, and that's actually been really good. So I ended up ordering a whole bunch more, and that's what I've been using. But probably will be trying the Magic Goo, or the Maggie Goo, here pretty quick. But you can see these little square tubes came out pretty decently. Not 100% perfect, but you know, once it gets up past a certain point, you start getting a little bit more heat in there because it's printing only this and nothing else down here, and so it tends to have a lot of heat left over when it comes back to that print. You can increase, you know, your cooling time. You can increase fan speeds or add more fans if needed. But for what I do, that's typically going to be all right. I'm typically not printing little tiny, probably 2mm by 2mm squares. You can see the bridging here actually came out pretty well, even on the long ones. All of these lines, these straight lines right there, they came out pretty well as well. The only thing that this one doesn't do very good, and I don't think any of these prints actually really came out very well with the writing on the top, as a top writing. So you can always fine-tune towards that. But in this case, like I said, I just literally took my normal print settings, stuck it on, and printed. This is in a 0.2. Probably could have been a lot better with a 0.1. But I believe this came out very well. You can see my overhang. Looks like I can get all the way over to about an 80 degrees and get away with it without it looking too terrible. Or 75 degrees is, you know, this guy right here. That one actually looks pretty good underneath. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. So the purpose of this video is really to go over, you don't need to spend $1 million on a printer. You can get good results with cheap printers, but don't expect the good results right off of the bat. This is the Prusa. This is actually probably one of the worst ones that the Prusa has printed, and probably one of the worst, you know, it's definitely the worst out of these samples. But I believe that is mainly because this last tower actually didn't get any adhesion, so it busted off. And actually, the parts actually started sticking over here, so, you know, once it extrudes, if it's got nothing to stick to, it's going to stick to the next part of the print. The words did come out a little bit better, if you can see them. A little bit better on this one. The overall finish is definitely better. And it looks like, you know, about the same as the heavily modified CR10. So we get about the same overhang, although I believe the CR10 actually does 75 degrees, just that much better. Let's see if we can't pull it up here. I don't know if it's going to focus or not. I'm not really the camera guy, but just making some videos. So those ones are pretty good. This is the CR10S4 that I have also heavily modified. No longer using really anything but the frame of the CR10. This one I call the CZ32400. The reason for my naming is my processor bit is 32, so this one has the Duet Wi-Fi in it, and the size of the build plate is 400, and CZ for me. But you can see these straight lines are really good. These are pretty good. There's a little bit of a bubble right there, but not too bad. The writing on this one is definitely the worst, and that's because I don't have very much infill on this. I believe it's maybe 15%. This one is probably 20%. But just the weight of these, I can tell that I did more top layers and stuff all over this one. Yeah, that one's actually solid. I don't know if you can see it through it, but if I hold it up here, let's see if we can't get that. So if I hold it up to the light, you can actually see the infill pattern on that one. If I stick that one there, there is no infill pattern, so that's going to be why one's heavier and one's better than the other. But you can see the bridging is pretty good on this one. The overhang, my fan is a little bit spaced out, and it's actually on the opposite side of basically this overhang test, and so it didn't get that great of cooling on it. But the words came out good, same with the CR. The words came out really good. Straight lines are really good. This one has just a little bit of ghosting on it for the CZ32, and for the Prusa, it's pretty much perfect. So, you know, you do get what you pay for sometimes. Sometimes, you know, just depends on the type of style of printer that you want. If you're looking for really high detailed, crisp and clean and don't want to fiddle with it at all, the CR probably is not for you. If you're looking for something that you can kind of, you know, you don't want to fiddle with and you want perfect prints 95% of the time, the Prusa is definitely the better way to go. But it's a, you know, it comes with a hefty price tag and a small build plate, smaller build plate. I believe it's about 250 or so, 200 by 250, where the CR10 comes in at around 300, and you got its bigger brothers, the 400 and the 500. Now, you can get the CR10 S4 for less money than the Prusa, but in order for me to get it to this print quality, I actually ended up having to replace the control board, replace the hot end, and extruder setup in order to consistently extrude with, you know, a lot less problems. You know, I never say problem free because you never know what happens. Just earlier I was actually having, my retract was a little bit too far. On certain areas the print would, you know, basically just stop printing because I was retracting 3 millimeters and for whatever reason it wanted 2.5 on this particular file. So other than that, I mean, this is parts that came off of, you know, we got parts off of the Prusa, parts off of the CZ400, and parts off of the CZ8300. And as long as you get tuned up, the parts will fit together. You really do got to fine-tune things. With the stock CR setup, there's no way I would be able to intermix any parts with it. I probably wouldn't have even been able to get circles out of that. So yeah, this is just a video kind of going over some print qualities and stuff. This printer's test, I found it on Thingiverse, and I didn't have very many prints going on, so I thought that I would just print it out. And as you see, I printed it out 4 times, and you know, the CRs definitely gave the Prusa a run for its money. Like I said, I don't know what happened to this little guy right here. It did not stick, but prints do fail even on the very expensive printers. So if you're out there and you're wondering what's going on, just know everybody has problems. It's not always as easy. You can see this one I didn't use any brim on, and these guys I did. You can look at the bottom layer of this one. It's got pretty good, you know, mirror-like finish. That's this factory glass. This one, once again, it's really good mirror-like finish or shiny glossy finish. But we got a little bit of, you know, lifting there. And like I said earlier, the lifting of the build plate, that's really all 100% user error. You can even see it right here my brim is too thin. And you know, if you have too much squish, you have problems. If you don't have enough squish, you have problems. And you know, right there, I probably just happened to touch the build platform before I printed, and I didn't clean it off. I just went ahead and printed because I didn't really care about this print too much. Also, printing, you know, really thick like that could also cause that problem with warpage, but in this case it was because I was too close to the bed. You can even see, you know, it is just not good right there. So, you know, even if you have auto leveling beds, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get perfect prints every time. You have to set up that auto level 100% more, setting it up, more setting up the layer height, the initial layer height. You know, sometimes it seems like if you sneeze in the room, the layer height, you know, your initial layer height goes bad. So those are just things to kind of check for. This is printed off of the Prusa. You can see it's got more of a matte finish. This one is single wall off of the CZ8 300. Flexible. This is PLA. Works pretty good. This one is off of my big printer with the 1mm nozzle. These are just little mixing cups that I made up for some projects that I'm doing. But yeah, everybody has problems. If you have any questions, you can always message me or stick them in the comments below. I'll try to respond to them as much as I can. Just looking for some other prints that I might have to kind of show things around, show things about. Here's something I printed a while ago. It works, so I didn't really care. But this is awful under extrusion, and this is actually inland PLA. I printed it. Awful stringing, awful. This is just an awful print, and this is when I started realizing that the new inland stuff is absolute garbage. So keep that in mind. Filaments always affect everything. There's no perfect setting for everything on every printer. You really got to fine tune everything per printer, just so that way you can, you know, get things done correctly. Yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed this 3D printer test review of a couple of my printers.